Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Monday the 30th of July 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. And to start off with, anti-Semitism is still a big story happening within the political agenda, particularly to do with the Labour Party and the Labour leadership under Jeremy Corbyn. Let's just have a look at the news today. The Board of Deputies of British Jews have warned the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn that he's leading the party into a dark place of ugly conspiracy theories. Now this comes off the back of Ian Austin, who's an MP for Dudley North, and is the second Labour MP who's been threatened with disciplinary action for taking on party chiefs over the issue of anti-Semitism. Now his relatives were also killed in a Holocaust, just like Margaret Hodge, who was the first Labour MP who had that altercation with Jeremy Corbyn, which started such a big, well, one of the reasons why such a big row has been started within the Labour Party over this issue, not the only reason, though. There's been multiple different reports coming through. But let's have a look at what he did. In terms of Ian Austin, he reportedly told Labour chairman Ian Lavery earlier this month that Labour's failure to fully adopt the international definition of anti-Semitism was a bloody disgrace, and also reportedly said that Labour had become a sewer. Now, he also reportedly accused the leader, Jeremy Corbyn, of not being suited to the leadership of a mainstream political party because he had more extreme politics. Now, a spokesman for the Labour Party insisted that Jeremy Corbyn was a militant opponent of anti-Semitism, with the party, of course, having insisted, or rather having pledged, to look at the proposed modification of the definition of anti-Semitism under its new code of conduct. That has been a really controversial point which has been rumbling over the past 2 weeks. This, of course, the international definition of anti-Semitism was not adopted in the new code of conduct under the Labour Party, and that's the question is why? Why did there need to be an amendment to anti-Semitism? Surely it's a rather universal definition, and everyone should universally recognise what it is without any exceptions. Chris Leslie, who's obviously a former Shadow Chancellor, said last night, absolutely mortified by what's going on in the higher command of the party. Expect now that there's little happening in terms of Westminster politics now, because Westminster's in recess, for issues like this to be coming up again and again and again in the Labour Party, particularly when reports are coming through that there is still such a degree of infighting and concern amongst the Parliamentary Labour Party and the Labour leadership under Jeremy Corbyn. Really interesting story there. Next up, in Brexit land, the government, this is quite a big story actually, the government has conceded the European Court of Justice jurisdiction, according to reports, particularly in the Times, they lead it today, saying that Britain has privately conceded that EU judges will be the legal arbiter of disputes over payments to Brussels and residency rights of the more than 3 million European citizens that are living in the UK. Now, what have they actually agreed to? There's some caveats to this story, but from what I understand from these reports, the government has agreed to give the ECJ, European Court of Justice, the final say in decision-making arbitration of arguments over the working of Brexit, disputes over the Brexit bill, about £39 billion worth of bill, the Irish border backstop, if trade deal between Britain and Europe leads to some kind of frontier checks or anything like that on the Irish border. The UK government source has said we have categorically rejected any proposal that would see the court of one side decide disputes. However, the Times seems to be saying that if there's an arbitration panel which is there to resolve disputes made up of a mixed UK and European individuals, if they are unable to find consensus on an issue, at that point it will go to the ECJ to make a ruling of. Now, the European Court of Justice will not have direct application in the UK because, of course, under the withdrawal agreement, that would not happen. Britain's left the European Union, jurisdiction of the ECJ. But this joint committee and these future arbitration panels made up of these mixture of people will have to resolve any dispute in a way that was consistent with EU judgments, aka there will have to be consistency between what the ECJ rules and what actually happens and what's actually decided upon in any arbitration panels. And therefore the question is, to what extent is this basically ECJ having the right and jurisdiction over the UK, or having supremacy over UK judges and UK courts? Really significant story. Again, more details will probably come out of this in the next few weeks, but certainly as a top line, something which many Brexiteers might be very, very concerned about, and certainly another headache for Theresa May if true. Finally then, while we're sticking onto Brexit, what was expected was that what was going to happen over the summer, there was going to be a week-by-week release of documents and information relating to the government's preparation towards a no-deal scenario in terms of Brexit. That's now been scrapped according to reports. It's going to be a big bulk information release in one or two big loads, one or two tranches. Now, the reports which are going to be released to do with no deal Brexit are going to focus mainly on the impact on the UK and really actually not focusing at all on the impact on the EU27. Now, that's annoyed some Brexiters, in particular Steve Baker, who was, of course, a former Brexit minister. He commissioned a study of how no deal Brexit would affect the economies of each EU member country and also the EU27 as a whole. It was never been published. And the annoyance which has come to Brexiteers here is that the emphasis in these reports are going to be the impact on the UK, how it's going to impact the UK, the negativities possibly of how it's going to affect the UK, not just the economy, but also the wider functioning of the country. But there isn't going to be any focus or disclosure of what the impact would be on the EU, and therefore the impression is going to be that this is disproportionately going to affect only the UK and not the rest of the EU27. Of course, that's not going to be true. If there's a no-deal Brexit, it will affect everyone, including every single, well, the vast majority of EU 27 states very hard, some more than others, though it has to be said. And so this has annoyed Brexiteers, but this is what we should expect. We'll find over the summer, something to look forward to. We'll have a mass information release of loads of Brexit information all in one go rather than the weekly basis. Now, Theresa May is also under pressure. Reports from yesterday in particular about the grassroots backlash from the Conservative associations over the Chequers proposal. Indeed, her own Maidenhead constituency chairman warned her that she could not go any further in terms of a Brexit deal, in terms of giving away any more concessions to the EU. And if her own constituency chairman is saying that to her, then you get a sense of how the grassroots are reacting to the Chequers agreement in the Conservative Party. Something, again, as it's now in the summer recess, as it's now focused more on constituency, less about Westminster politics, something that will no doubt come up in reports in the next few weeks. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. Join us in a conversation about anything we've covered or anything we haven't covered in today's morning briefing. But from me and all the team here, we'll probably be back again on Wednesday with some more news. See you then, around about 9 o'clock.